In a world where art shatters expectations, one man dares to break the mold. He has the power to blend vulnerability with a childlike innocent spirit and speaks directly to the deepest corners of our souls. This fall, discover the man who made simplicity profound and let innocence collide with intensity. Because he's not just redefining art, he's rewriting the very meaning of innocence. Coming soon to a YouTube theater near you. Or better yet, let's start right now. Yoshitomo Nara had always been alone, but he didn't mind. In the northern town of Hirosaki, where the winters were long and the nights seemed endless, solitude was a way of life. As a child, he would spend hours in his room, his only company the soft hum of a radio and the comforting weight of a pencil in his hand. He'd draw to pass the time, sketching scenes from the few books he owned or imagining faces that seemed to float up from the darkness of his mind. His parents, busy with work, barely noticed his growing obsession with drawing. But Nara didn't draw for attention. He drew because it felt like the only way to speak. In the silence of his room, his drawings became his voice, each line a word, each figure a sentence. He didn't know it then, but these early years of solitude would shape his art in ways that would one day make him one of Japan's most celebrated artists. The town of Hirosaki was small, and Nara often felt like an outsider, even among friends. He was quiet, introspective, and far more interested in the worlds he could create on paper than the one outside his window. But everything changed when he discovered punk rock. He was a teenager, lost and searching for something he couldn't quite name, when he first heard the raw, rebellious music blaring from a friend's stereo. The sound was electric, a burst of energy that seemed to shatter the silence he had always known. During his junior high school years, Nara was particularly drawn to Western musicians like John Simon, Tony Kosnick, and David Bowie. The album covers of that era played a crucial role in shaping his visual concepts. One LP cover that left a lasting impression on him was by Santana, and Nara was amazed to discover that it was designed by the Japanese artist Yoko Tadanori. Eager to learn more, Nara approached his school's art teacher about Yoko Tadanori, but the teacher couldn't provide any information. This experience left a deep impact on Nara, influencing his artistic journey. Punk rock became his anthem, its defiant spirit resonating with something deep inside him. The music spoke of anger, frustration, and a refusal to conform, feelings Nara knew all too well. He started drawing with a new intensity, his lines sharper, his figures bolder. He began to experiment, blending the innocent imagery of his childhood with the raw energy of punk. The result was something entirely new, a style that was both disarmingly simple and deeply unsettling. One night, after a particularly grueling day at art school, Nara found himself alone in his tiny apartment, staring at a blank canvas. The city outside was alive with noise, but inside, it was quiet, too quiet. He picked up his brush and began to paint, not knowing what would emerge. Hours passed, and as the first light of dawn filtered through his window, he stepped back to see what he had created. It was a girl, small and fragile, with a round face and wide, expressive eyes. She seemed innocent at first glance, but there was something in her gaze, something defiant, almost menacing. In her right hand she held a knife, concealed behind her back. How do we know? The artwork's title says it all, Knife Behind Back. The painting was simple, almost childlike, but it held a tension that Nara couldn't quite explain. It was as if the girl was daring anyone who looked at her to come closer, to see beyond the surface. Nara stared at the painting, feeling a strange mix of satisfaction and unease. It was as if he had captured something of himself in the girl's gaze, a reflection of his own anger, his own loneliness. He titled the piece and set it aside, not realizing that it would become one of his most iconic works. What set Nara apart was the delicate balance he struck between simplicity and depth. His work blended a childlike aesthetic with profound emotional and psychological themes, creating a distinct style that was unmistakably his own. His wide-eyed, often solitary figures, usually children and animals, were set against minimalist backgrounds. Yet beneath the seemingly innocent surface lay a rich complexity that touched viewers deeply. His style, influenced by both Japanese pop culture, especially the kawaii aesthetic, and Western punk rock and pop art, created a unique visual language that felt both familiar and fresh to a wide audience. The kawaii influence lent his work an approachable, almost playful quality, while the punk elements added a rebellious edge. This combination allowed his art to transcend cultural boundaries and speak to a global audience. Nara's work was more than just aesthetically appealing, it was a deeply personal expression of his inner world. This emotional authenticity resonated with viewers who sensed the honesty in his creations. It was this genuineness that made his art so impactful, as it allowed people to connect with the emotions he conveyed on a deeply personal level. His characters, often depicted with oversized heads and large, expressive eyes, evoke a sense of innocence. However, this innocence is frequently undercut by subtle hints of menace or rebellion, a child clutching a weapon or wearing a defiant expression. This duality mirrors the contradictions of childhood, where vulnerability and defiance coexist, allowing viewers to see reflections of their own inner conflicts. His art spoke to universal experiences of loneliness and the search for identity. The isolation of his figures, whether physical or emotional, evoked empathy from viewers, tapping into the shared human experience of feeling alone or misunderstood. Yet despite the somber tones, there was an underlying sense of resilience and quiet strength in his characters, offering solace and hope. In the 1990s, Nara began gaining recognition both in Japan and internationally through solo exhibitions and group shows. His work, distinct from the prevailing art trends, stood out. His first solo exhibition in Tokyo in 1984 marked the beginning, but it wasn't until the 1990s that his career truly gained momentum. A major turning point in Nara's career was the 2001 No War exhibition, which he organized in response to global tensions after 9/11. With his signature children holding anti-war signs, the show resonated worldwide and cemented his reputation as an artist who could capture the spirit of the times with emotional and political impact. Nara's art resonated because it was honest. It came from a place of deep emotion, born out of years of solitude and introspection. His wide-eyed, defiant figures weren't just images on a canvas. They were fragments of himself, reflections of his own life's journey. Nara's work has become highly sought after in both public and private collections, a testament to his significant impact on the contemporary art scene. Notable collectors include music producer and artist Pharrell Williams, renowned artist Takashi Murakami, and Hollywood stars Leonardo DiCaprio and Brad Pitt. Additionally, Larry Gagosian, the influential art dealer and owner of the Gagosian Gallery, is known to have Nara's works in his collection. Despite his growing fame, Nara remained as introspective as ever. He often retreated to his studio in the Japanese countryside whenever the world became too overwhelming. There, in the quiet he had always cherished, he would paint, creating worlds where his characters could live out their lives in peace, away from the noise and chaos of the outside world. In the end, Yoshitomo Nara was still that boy from Hirosaki, alone in his room, drawing to pass the time. But now the world was listening, and in the quiet spaces between his brushstrokes, people found something of themselves as well. So how do you feel about Yoshitomo Nara's art? Thanks for watching. If you enjoyed this video, smash that like button and subscribe to this channel for more art adventures. I'll see you in the next one.